really excited about this next episode. I have Alexis here, um, and we're gonna get straight in. I don't know how to do an intro. I don't know how to do an intro, but I'm extremely excited about this episode. I I think we're gonna cover a lot of interesting topics and get into some space weather, some interdimensional things, some regular things, diet. I can already see it. So, do you want to
True.
introduce yourself to YouTube?
I would love to. Hi, YouTube. I also have a YouTube channel. It's called Ascension Diaries. I do space weather and I do basically ascension related workshops or self improvement related workshops on a monthly basis now. I call Guardian Training. So if you want to hang out with me once a month on the 18th, we do a Zoom call and we have a themed workshop. And then I release that out for everybody. And in the meantime, I'm spamming everybody on social media, any of them, all of them, about the solar. I do a lot of sun edits, solar edits, and I also watch the earthquakes and the Schumann resonances and the aurora borealis and pretty much the fallout of all the stuff that the sun causes. So that's been my passion over the last 6 years. And I also really much love going to the conferences and so on with other awakening people who are bringing their modalities and their healings to others and conferencing and physically being brave enough to meet with each other, work with each other, exchange codes, and fortify as a community because of all of, I would say, the organized pushback that we're getting in this, I would say, this enlightening that's going on in our society right now. And for us to be organized and in love with each other as a family of people is my goal. So that's what I invest my time and energy into. So if you're resonating with me, please go ahead and find my YouTube channel and my Instagram for sure, Ascension Diaries, and I'd be happy to have you. I also have a Telegram chat room that's 24/7, which produces the space weather stuff, and everybody in there I've trained to be able to watch over. So if you have any questions about what we're going to talk about today, you want to talk to me, feel free. I do this for a living. So please, this is what I wanted. This is what I want. So thank you.
Awesome.
It's so nice to meet you. And thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, that's a lot to plug in the description. So I'm going to have to, you got a lot of different avenues, which
We'll
is
just
awesome.
Put one little link in.
Yeah, one little link and it's just 80 things. So. But that's, that's something we could get into because there is a lot, because there is the
right
physical of when people in this space do congregate. And, I could edit this out, but
okay.
we got to also start being comfortable with the reality that, actually being comfortable with it online in the community and stuff like that, because I don't know, depending how you feel, because I obviously had a very interesting experience in Sedona, and in these, when we do get together and meet, there is the mythical black helicopters or energies that will try to counterbalance positive energies. There is this dualistic nature to when a lot of healers and people who follow certain modalities do try to congregate in a way. There is this counterbalance that tries to seemingly stop it and upset it and cause strife. So do you want to, I guess, briefly get into that, because that's just something that briefly that I found interesting when you brought up that.
Well, that's how you and me bonded, I would say, because we were experiencing quite a few channelers at that event, and that's not always common to have people who channel entities come to events. It's a risky biz, I would say, to do so, and it was a risk, and we did experience a wonderful opportunity to be shown what is possible with the sort of, if you don't have your, I want to say, P's and Q's sorted out, like if you don't have your established understanding of who you're riding with and who you don't want to ride with. And that was established more, I think, for yourself and for some people. And also where you have these events is extremely important. And I already knew this event was going to have those elements, as this is not my first rodeo, and I sort of go to these because of this situation. And I want to say almost the blocks or the veils that are over some people who create these events, who speak at these events, who haven't fully found their hygiene, I want to say, when it comes to what it is that their spirit and their aura is connecting to. And unfortunately, you had an experience that was probably more vivid than most people I know have experienced. So it shows me how powerful of a seer you actually are also, and how in a way you can use that ability to protect others in the future. And if you were in my guardian training and like working with me, I would be honing that skill specifically to, I don't want to say hunt anything, but I would say uh,
Yeah, see it
spot
out
issues.
very clearly. Yeah, so where it's not
But I
going to
didn't
be
know
a
you, so I was like,
yeah,
okay, I just absorbed your experience and honestly
yeah.
took it on. And I was like, yeah, let's problem solve this. And I wasn't afraid. I was glad
Mhm.
that you were telling me because it made me feel like you trusted me. And I appreciated that. So,
Of course, yeah. No, you and Jace, there was this interesting. It's hard to describe, like counterbalance to the counterbalance of like how we were all congregating, and then there was this bad mojo going on that I was feeling. You guys were like the shining light to like, okay, this is very grounding to me. So I noticed that was yeah, yeah. So thank you again. That was such a crazy trippy event that I
you
couldn't
gotta
even
tell us,
imagine.
like, you gotta say, can you tell us what
Yeah,
you
yeah.
experienced? Yeah.
So what I basically experienced was a thickness and like a stench. So yeah, this is getting into demon possession and um some sort of I would describe it as, it sounds, I don't want to sound too hyperbolic and too wordy, but to fully articulate and convey to the audience and whoever hears this what it actually felt like.
Mhm.
It's essentially breathing in, like, that feeling when the ocean is super fresh or when you're smelling something. So imagine imbuing in like a scent, like a very foul stench of rot, of like something decaying, very, very decaying. Um, but also with like, how like almost when you're like a kid, gummy bears have you associate it, well, I do at least, with like yummy or like kind of like this. There's almost like a sense around like candy, or there's a
Mhm.
sense around like certain types of food. There's this sense to them. This had like a sense of, I couldn't even describe it in articulation words. I'll just try to emotionally convey it, of like ultra um like trying to manipulate you, like power over, like trying to manipulate power over you in like a
Wow.
stench rot way, like just trying to like imagine. And I don't want to use, I probably can't say this on YouTube, but the R word, ape, grape, it felt like that level of cognitive, like, and then it
Mhm.
felt like it kind of like hit me. And it was such a weird thing where it almost felt like I was breathing it in, filled my lungs, and then it felt like a cable, like a power cable. Like, it's funny, I have this actually right here. Like someone would literally take a power cable and go to your stomach. And then there was like this umbilical cord that felt like something was like taking out of me. And it felt like nothing I've ever experienced. And I was also trying to be as I don't know how that sounds, but I
Well,
was
you're
trying
in
to.
an event full of people, like you're trying to have a good time.
Yeah, and I'm trying, and then it's imagining why that's going on. You're trying to relax after you had a long flight, you had like a long trip to drive to the desert, and then you get, stuck, and then siphon this energy out, and you're going, um, and then a lot of different things would occur. Like, I was thinking then, like little fish, or like some type of little like parasites I would see out of my eyes, like,
Mhm.
or out of my hands, and stuff would just like, it was like something was trying to eat me, and we'll just say grape me essentially, and
Right.
completely inverting my body to where I got extremely sick and ill, and I had to do a lot of my Taoism meditations, and basically like reorienting my organs to vibrate at a higher frequency to kind of get rid of the gunk, is what I basically did. And I locked myself in a room for like 48 hours, and I basically then just kind of saunaed in like a hot bathtub with salt, Epsom salt.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's almost an indescribable feeling. Like when you're going on a bad trip, it's kind of like that in a sense, but you're actually it's a much more dense feeling where you're not like in this kind of your own thoughts. It's almost like it's an amalgamation of many thoughts that are like invading you.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a lot of different thought clusters kind of coming in, and just like it was yeah, so that was kind of
And
the
there was a
experience.
visual experience also with it, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So that was basically kind of like the internal feeling, but there were, I would describe them as kind of like static. Oh yeah, but I could almost just telepathic. It must be easier just to like telepathically. Yeah. So very like, yeah, very kind of this just kind of like an old kind of person almost, but very staticky, like a staticky old being in a sense. Um, does that, what did you kind of resonate from my, I was trying to kind of project, I know we're getting in our very loopy already, but I'm trying to project to you my what I was kind of experiencing. But it was, and I trust you too to do that. I'm not going to, tell everyone
Well,
exactly how I was great.
when you brought it up the first time, you were
Yeah.
in a deep state of distress, and it was like the wave. You were like, take this. And I was like, whoosh, like I took the whole information. And I just remember looking over and being like, looking at the staff. And I was like, looking at you, like, this is not the place for this, but we have to do this now. And it was like, okay. And so I just like kind of took it over and wrapped it and was like, this is what you need. And I handed you my item, my jade Buddha beads, was
Hmm.
like, take this and you need to get to safety immediately. So you were getting
Yeah.
rearranged even in the location because this was a hotel. And basically all of the understandings I know about this location is that it is used, and these locations are used as a portal, and they are used for many reasons. And I usually just stay away from them. But in this scenario, and I actually also had to sleep in that building unexpectedly. So I know that we were really doing some work there to clear out whatever that was. And it seems like whatever it was maybe popped out to meet you and try and take your energy because of your abilities and so on. Like you were a good source, I would say. And maybe just hadn't quite, you were just thrown off just enough for it to hook you and
Yeah.
mess with you just a moment. But I know nothing like that's ever going to happen to you again in this
Hmm.
life for sure. It
Hmm.
was a test of your mastery, but it was a wild test. And some people have no idea the level of, I want to say, lucidity that you experience this in,
Hmm.
and what's possible. And I was afraid. I could feel your fear immediately and was afraid because at first it was like, this thing's about to jump out at me too. Like, where is it? Basically, it was like my immediate thought, like, where is it? And you were moving rooms, and
Yeah.
we surrounded you with some people also. I don't know if
Yeah.
that worked for you, but if I could have, I would have just scooped you up and taken you home with me. But also, I didn't know you. So I also had to like make sure I shot enough light through your system so you weren't going to carry whatever that was home with us as well. So I was like
Yeah.
doing all this work immediately
Yeah.
on you. And the staff at the front desk is looking at me. I'm like, don't even, they're reading my lips. Like whatever it was in their body looking at me. And I was looking at
Mm.
them and I was trying to talk to you without addressing them. And immediately you pulled me into my avatar, I would say,
Okay.
into my avatar state to take care of that situation because yeah, I haven't had to deal with one quite that rapid, I would say. Usually it creeps on a little soon, it creeps up a little bit, but this one
Hmm.
seems like it just like hits you out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause yeah. Um, yeah. I don't even remember. It seems like such a fever dream that it's hard to even like Serious,
Well,
like
you
it's
looked
hard to
like you
get.
were having a fever dream, and I was like, I didn't know you. So I was like, is this guy under some sort of intense influence of
Or,
drugs? Like, what
or is
portal
this
is
just
open?
what he
What
looks
portal
like?
did he open in himself, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So I had a lot of questions go through my mind.
yeah. Is this guy just on drugs? Yeah.
I didn't know. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's, to some degree, it's okay. But, obviously some are deliberate portals to those realms. So you don't want to engage in those substances because it's their
Yeah.
substance.
Hmm.
So,
Wow. Yeah. So thank you again. That was probably the toughest experience I've ever had to deal with to kind
oh
of, but
my gosh.
it was good for me because I had to pull myself up, kind of by myself and really
Yeah.
like realize what is actually going on here and really understand, like how the gravity and severity of what we're actually kind of doing and what's being taken place is actually, it's like, because it's hard to then even grasp and function in the normal world. Like you're going on, this is people's day, they're doing some files and some paperwork, and we're opening portals and battling demons. It's like, what? It's like that's the plot to The Conjuring,
Yeah.
and Insidious. And we're like, yeah, yeah. And it jumps out at you and takes possession. I mean, like, so it was kind of like a cognitive dissonance moment where I was like, okay, this really is actually happening. Like, the days of when you're not believing anything could be spiritual, when you kind of rejected that notion, are over, so, you really got to go
Yeah.
full blast because you can't like not accept this. But
So you've
also,
seen scary movies like that in your
oh,
past?
oh yeah. What do you mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense to me now.
Yeah, no, I was a super well, I guess I can divulge this, I might take this up. But I was kind of a very materialistic in the sense that I didn't believe in any sort of spirituality until very recently, in a sense, where I was still too criticizing of it. I didn't have any what I would call like profound enough experience to where I knew intuitively that this is real, or what I would have enough psychic knowing to where, this is so there's something going on from a psychic level here. It's not just this um, dense materialistic reality that's kind of portrayed and projected onto us from I would say academia, where it's kind of, this is evolution, this is this, and everything's very like, um so I've been through such a loop, and I was exposed to, I would say, I was obsessed with like dark movies or kind of horror in a sense. And I was definitely, now I realize, I was just in like a bad thought realm. Essentially, I was in
Yeah.
such a dark thought realm that I was under such cognitive dissonance that I didn't believe that any sort of psychic ability could have occurred, any sort of spirituality in a sense is actually real. It's just basically
Wow.
sort of so I've gone from, that level of, and you're like the opposite, obviously, but to me, it's like going from such kind of a 180 in a brief amount of
Well, you
time.
proved it to yourself.
Yeah, in a brief amount of time, considering like 2021. Wait, I
Yeah, it's been a
mean,
bit of a blur, eh?
2021 and then 2022 basically were like end of 2021. But I would even say it was really more 2022 to where I fully had a spiritual experience that for me defined this is 100% real. So it's only in that year. It's only, within a couple months that and then everything else has been so rapid with, having people like, do healing modalities. You're testing out different healing modalities, doing different meditations, and you're not just in some sort of I would say locked in Sam Harris type of paradigm where you're just in like a materialistic kind of new atheist movement thing where you're just like, I'm just meditating, but I don't know, like you're not locked into that. So it's been a drastic jump, and then having that battle with that strong of an entity. And I also, and I'll also, this is an omission. Okay, warning, omission. I actually
Okay.
was really excited. So this is actually, I kind of have, because I love combat sports. So so I was kind of getting excited to battle things. So I was
Okay.
kind of, part of my subconscious was going into, I'm here to fight, let's go. Like I have too much of that attitude, I think. So yeah, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So I have too much of that attitude, somewhat of, I'm here, like, yo, if you want to fight, I'm here. So I kind of welcomed on some like very big guy to like, and then he just kicked my ass. And I'm like, okay, I can't handle this. I'm tapping out, guys. Hey, help. So that's partly, I think, subconsciously what happened, because once I felt that I had some grasp of, oh, I have some here spiritual modality. I have also some of that, like, I want to fight this in a sense, some adversarial dynamic of this. So I was kind of, I was looking for a fight a little bit too much, maybe going into this. So I'm not going to lie in that sense. So that makes sense too. I wouldn't say deny
Because they
that.
love that.
They
But
love
yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
that it's more into that defense is the best offense sort of vibe after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that I know better to not, go in like thinking, oh, I can fight anyone. Let's go. So I think that is, it's a great learning lesson, and it did help me evolve. I think
I'm
that
glad you're
is,
saying it though, because we need people to know that that is not a good technique because you will
yeah,
welcome on.
yeah. So it's, I guess, a warning to anyone that do not go in looking for a fight with these guys, because then they will basically feed off of that, like
Because that's
in a
how they
very,
operate.
yeah. So you're getting on their level too much, and then
Yeah.
they're just gonna want to fight you. So
And they've been doing it longer.
yeah, and they're better at it. Okay, this is too much. So that is an omission that I do like fighting a lot, and wanted to, and I like the idea of, there is some of that thought cluster in me that says, let's fight, let's fight, let's fight. So
Good.
that's definitely,
It's not bad, but I think we need to get you a selenite sword.
okay.
Those are the
Okay.
best.
Okay. So, so that's, yeah, that's um, so it's an important thing to know. Don't go trying to fight the demons, otherwise they will, feed off of that, uh, energy too much. Anyway, I guess shifting gears.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of shifting gears slightly into, are you comfortable? I could take this part out, but are you comfortable talking about the black helicopters and the alien spaceship?
Oh, that it happened then at the
Yeah,
location?
yeah.
Uh, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the past now. It in a way, politely and without omitting too much, I will say that when they do expose themselves, they are not forgotten about, and it is discussed in the astral and dealt with for weeks and months afterwards, including the people who brought those entities. And they are, I want to say, resorted. Like you got a little bit of a readjustment. You weren't the only one who got a readjustment, and some of them are too proud as well to ever admit their mistakes or discuss their readjustments. But that's why I called my channel The Ascension Diaries, because it basically discussing the whole growth process, the mistakes and the wins. And that's how you become a trustworthy protector and guardian also. So how you are also discussing this and talking about techniques is true bravery. And you really are a warrior of the light. I can see that. And yeah, we are way more powerful than people understand. And our abilities to have our shadow self, or our night side, some people call it, unchecked or unintegrated by not knowing what sort of capabilities you have in that side of the darkness, or in the side of your fighting side, like you had awareness of. You had that established and kind of wanted to work with that energy, but it was, I want to say, maybe more of a self-centered act instead of a defend the children, defend the innocence sort of energy, perhaps. But that may be where you
Yeah.
want
No, you're
to
100%
lean.
right. I'm like, I want to fight. I want to win. I want to beat all these guys, and be
Right.
king and beat all these
Domination
demons. Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
the key. Defending of the innocent is the
Yeah.
idea. And
Yeah.
we did see, I notice often that, especially when people are carrying fear, that's when it allows these things to populate, because it's just a reflection of what you're afraid of is your own unintegrated shadow, and what you know is possible in the darkness, but you aren't talking about it, or you aren't doing anything to kind of face it and include it. And if you keep pushing away that aspect of yourself, it'll populate in things like black helicopters, black SUVs, the darkness. And what I understand now is those are your shadow aspects trying to integrate with you and trying to be owned in a way by you again, instead of rejected. So own that side of the game also. And
Mm.
when I was in an accident with a black SUV recently, it was that integration. It was like that part of my body literally got slammed into the right hand side, and it integrated almost the shadow that I was rejecting. And I got all these memories about my basically secret spy top self and this black dragon, basically, which is the scariest thing of the night, the scariest thing of the dark, the thing that's keeping the darkness in check. You cannot defeat this dragon. Basically, that was the energy. So in a way, there is control, like you said, there's control and domination in that realm. But if you engage with the best of the best, who is able to basically manage that realm, so it's not, it's in check also, that energy is something that I was integrating and understanding more when that accident happened in May last year.
Mm.
And then those who are in denial or aren't able to listen to the concerns of other powerful psychics and people in their environment and continue to practice what they're doing, or continue not to have protocols of basically calling upon God, creator, source, before and after they open portals and before and after they communicate, you're allowing way more observation and way more domination to come into your life and influence over your life and your vessel. And there's an imbalance from your light side and your dark side in a way. And we're supposed to be like the gray. We're walking both worlds and kind of weaving it together all the time in our presence here, in our density. But that's what I understand it to be. And yeah, I watched this cloud park above the hotel, and I know whose craft it was. I figured it out afterwards, and I've had lots of chats with this being, and I haven't checked in on them quite yet, but they're almost back. I want to say they've almost established, but a lot of apologies, I think, are also needing to be made a lot of the time. And some people don't take responsibility for what they've done, and they're dangerous. So unfortunately, that's also part of the job, is I go to these events to see who's dangerous and who needs to basically be kicked out of their position of rising power because they can't be trusted. And that is like the matriarchal energy, it being like, are you going to put the babies in danger? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And my energy just knows. And I just go through the people and they get sorted, and it just happens. Like, I don't see them again. Basically, they're people who got the no, and sometimes they'll come back around. Sometimes they'll get a no. They'll have some sort of karmic thing happen to them afterwards, and then they will either rise to the responsibility, or they will keep falling and keep grasping at the power that they had as they fall, and until they fall into basically irrelevancy. So that is what I think what we're kind of here to do in this generation, is being that judge, jury, and executioner in a way, because in our space, we can clearly see, but above in a cloud ship in a different density, it's a little bit different. They're trying to project down and match our frequency, but they can't. And so we can just see them outside. Same with those copters. A lot things above in the sky are kind of trapped up there, and even things under the water are trapped down there. And we're in this place, almost this heavenly mid-level ground here on the surface, where only us can walk. And they're trying to influence us to try and become more into this beautiful realm that we get to live in and influence it more. And so people will try to take power, and they will try to poise themselves as some kind of expert or some kind of master, I would say, that their opinion is or like that their experience is fact instead of subjective, and that they are offering everything instead of just a piece. So it's kind of like, those are the pieces. It's like, do you feel like you're a piece of the puzzle, or do you feel like we all came here to see you? And it's just one or the other energies, and it's pretty easy. Are you here to cooperate, or are you here to take power? And it was like very easy to see who arrived at that event with what intention, unfortunately. And I love these people. I want them to succeed. I want them to go, I am a piece of this. I have something to give and something to learn. That is a healthy being that I can work with. If that is not going to be your energy, that you're getting immediately dealt with on multiple ways.
Quantum levels of
Yeah,
of
because they
execution.
came there to be exposed in a way healed, I think also, but they don't
Mhm.
know that because they weren't they've been veiled for they're ignorant, they're stuck. And so I don't feel bad for these people. It's more like I feel like we are their beacon of hope as well as a new example of how they should operate, because if they don't adapt to that, they won't survive this continued shift that we're going through. And it's pretty easy to see who failed and who didn't, because they'll either get better the next year or get worse after you see them. Or
Okay, I
maybe
feel
they
like I'm getting better, so hopefully I'm
you're doing great.
okay.
You're doing great.
This is all, it's like, oh, this is covertly about you.
Yes,
No,
you're
okay.
doing great.
No, no.
You recently kind of woke up into that, and now you're like, I want to win. You're like, I want to win. I don't want to fail. I don't want to be, taken over. I don't want to be
Yeah.
put charges into. I don't
Mhm,
want to be hooked. We got a
mhm,
lot of that. And you'll notice
mhm,
people who are hooked on the person, because it's like no matter what you say, even if you've never seen who you're talking about and you're giving a genuine first impression, they will
mhm,
immediately battle you because it's their ego is connected and they're hooked into this person as this like power, this false power, even for their own ego to feel important. And nothing that thing or that experience that they're engaging with, it can be, nothing about it can be wrong, nothing about it can be dangerous, nothing about it is, because if
mhm,
it was, then then they can't claim it's so wonderful. And I've sat next to and genuinely spoken face to face with beings who have engaged with some extreme levels of darkness in our reality right now. And I've had to look into their eyes and look at their soul and see how sad and scared and like drained their soul is. And it's like they're pleading out of their eyes, like, I don't know what to do, but I'm doing something. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? And they're like, they're just basically out of their power. And so when you see people like that, my protective instinct's like, okay, we're going to isolate that, get that fixed up, and we're going to push everything off and see if you can survive, basically, if you can
Mhm.
survive this little extra boost. And I think that's what children do. All children I know who are lucid will look right into your soul and they will know. Dogs, animals, an
Oh
animal's
yeah.
either going to be around you or it's not. The animal's either going to think, oh, I like this person, or absolutely not. And they're pretty good at that. And we have those abilities, but we've been conditioned to not listen to them because of the things that you're dealing with have been around a long time, and they need vessels, they need hosts, they need energy because they are parasites. They don't have their own source anymore. They've kind of lost their way, which is unfortunate, but that's also what we want to do. We want to be able to give people away. Like, I never want to condemn anyone forever. Every aspect of the other is an aspect of me, and I want us all to be coherent. I want us all to be happy. And if I can't find coherence with them, I also know something within me is also learning something and trying to figure something out. And after these events and stuff, when I go home and go to sleep, especially like the first hour, I have a ton of conversations. I hear chatter. It's like all the conversations I didn't get to have verbally when I was around people were happening in that time. And how so much stuff gets sorted out. And I've had to use a new technique where I'm like, forget about me, forget about me, forget about me. Because
Mhm,
sometimes it gets so loud that I'm just like, forget about me, forget about me. And that it quiets down, because you will make a big impression also if you walk into a room and you're not threatened or impressed by somebody who is easily sucking the life out of people and convincing them that they are 100% accurate all the time. Because
mhm.
that is a red flag to somebody who is trying desperately to somehow seem relevant with their own situation and have lost their way. And it's tricky because you're like, okay, I want to help you, but you got to forget about me. And forget about me. It's not worth it. You're not going to like it if you keep poking. You're not going to go. You don't want to do that because it's going to come down on you. And it does. And it's not great. But I keep coming back to the events and seeing who survives and who else is being brought in to be idol worshipped as well, and how that's going for them, because it doesn't go well 100% of the time. It's
Yeah.
pretty tricky. And there's a lot of ignorance. There's so much ancestry and spirit, and especially in Sedona, where there's a lot of established spiritual work done there. There's spiritual wars, there's spirits there, and they will confront you, they will challenge you. And they also allow certain areas to be for the dark also. It seems like the dark needs to get opportunities to come into these areas to also get those chances to be flipped or make a new choice finally, to go to the light and to go to cooperation instead of domination. So Sedona especially is one of those places, a meeting ground of all areas, galactic areas. It's like this interesting neutral zone almost, but it's fierce. Like there is defenders and guardians and stuff roaming around, and what was going on in the skies. It was an extreme. It was an extreme level that I hadn't seen before, and was very impressed in a way about what was able to manifest, like that snow. That dark, like basically in the middle of that experience where the dark cloud just got lower, it began flashing and zapping us and then dumping this fake snow. Was very obvious to everyone there. Hopefully woke some people up even who were there about what is possible when you don't do the proper protocols and allow certain things to follow you around because you like the attention you get when you talk about them.
And that's something that's so profound too, that these things manifested at such a high level, considering the clouds, and the lightning, and then the snow were manifested and dumped. You know how the snow just like dumped at such a profound level, and I've never had anything manifest in that way that was that dense. So it all felt like such a fever dream and a time loop. Yeah.
I was in a way disgusted at that moment. Like, I cannot believe that this is going to go to this length, but it had to, because there was people that dense that needed something that physical to be, woken up, being like, oh, there's something more to this, like what is going on?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you were at the end of, I would say, you got quite a bit of that, and you transmuted it also. So it met your energy and transmuted in a really crazy way. And I think we were able to have a breakthrough, but it broke down. Like, just to know that someone like yourself at our event was having such an extreme attack, I think definitely popped the inflated egos of some beings who thought that they were untouchable and the extreme level of magic and prowess of the light. And it was like, it was humbling, I think, to some people. I definitely don't feel like it was humbling to me. It was just more like kind of feeling like, damn, like, here it is. Like, I'm really sorry that this young man had to go through this, but let's fucking tackle it. Let's get on it. I know what to do now. You asked, so it's like you gotta wait to be asked also, to a degree. Otherwise, you gotta kind of just let everybody noodle and figure it out, and you gotta observe. And hopefully it shakes out good, and just do your own practices of protection. And some of the speakers all had a little bit about that, like protecting yourself and shielding yourself and protocols, but conferences and stuff are very difficult. It brings out the worst in people, I would say, unfortunately, and the best, which is cool, but it definitely polarizes us.
Such an interesting event. I think I think it was good for me though, to get rid of a lot of that ego sense and that sense of combativeness that I will sometimes often go to when I'm handling something uncomfortable. It was that aspect of me that will push too close to wanting to struggle in adversity on that kind of very low guttural level. That there was that part of me. So I think it was really good for me, even though I almost died of some sort of lung inflammation. But
well, it could have been even your dark side. It could have been your your Sith version of you trying to pull you back.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. There's that part of me that was trying to like, go, no, no, why, we
And
don't
you're
like the
like, no,
light.
I want to be at the light and I want to have fun and I want to
Yeah, I
have
want to be a
color and
unicorn. I want to be a unicorn.
yeah, I want to
Yeah.
sparkle. Like
Yeah.
it's
So,
fun.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, do you want to get into space weather or do you want to get
Yeah,
into okay.
that'd be great because
Okay,
it
yeah.
was fun to watch artificial weather and these craft come in
Oh.
when I was
Mhm,
going to be discussing playfully, I want to say my
mhm,
topic of space weather because again,
mhm,
I was feeling out the event and who was receptive to what I was going to give. And I was like, okay, so I did this presentation, which was more like a quiz or like, I forget, it was like a questionnaire or quiz or something style that I did as a kind of playful way. So it was like question led, and then I give an answer. So like kind of a funny question about space weather, and then like give an answer, constructive answer. And during the events and every event that I've done, the timing of the space weather always lines up because it's a cosmic miracle that a lot of us get to meet in physical form. It's like lightning. We are lightning, walking, talking lightning in a way. And so when we bring a bunch of lightning together, it obviously amplifies the field and it also is a sign that the environment we're in is highly charged as well, because we were able to do what we're doing in physical form in that time. The frequency is higher. So we had a heightened level of the Earth atmospheric frequency, or the Schumann resonances, they call them, which is just the sound the Earth makes when all the solar wind hits it all the time. And the lightning that's grounding caused from that charge creates this noise or stimulates the bell or rings the bell all day, every day. It's this constant buzz. So it gets louder, more amplified when the sun's also slapping us or the cosmic wind is slapping us, which we can track for the most part and predict. So it's pretty easy. Also, sometimes I can track and know it's coming, and then I watch the data just get shut off on those public resources. So you can't actually see the specifics of what it looks like when it comes in. And so I just have to show the emptiness and be like, here it is, everybody, here's the empty part of the data. And what did you feel? And I have to get the public feedback, and everybody who follows me is usually ahead of it now, and they're asking me, telling me it's off, hey, the machines are off or whatever, but I'm already in a state of euphoria usually at that time, and I'm not on my phone at finally, and I'm doing something else. Like I'm in nature, I'm with you, I'm with with these groups of
Yeah,
people, and I'm like
yes, yeah.
super happy. And a lot of the time I can't even pull up the charts and stuff the day I'm going to present because that's when they're off. And so
Mm,
the timing is always aligned, almost always. And during that time, we got solar flares. We were getting quite a bit of solar flares during that time. We were getting hit over and over and over and over. So Sedona was getting charged and charged and charged, and they were spraying, they were bringing cloud cover down. It was like we were under this bubble of manipulation, I would say, and
mm,
energy manipulation. And it didn't matter because we were already on the ground, we were already together, and we were building it up kind of from the base. And it was trying to come in from the sun. And for me, that was great because I was like, this is all checking out. This happens every time. And the solar flare conditions were extreme, I would say. It was the end of December, and it was a show. It was impressive. It was really impressive with the readings we were getting. And our most recent last few weeks, we also had, I say the last week, we also had a very impressive show of solar flare activity. So we've also got initiated again the last couple of weeks, which everyone was freaking out when all those UFOs were being shot down and balloons and all that. It was
mhm,
all at the same time. That's
okay.
the largest solar flare we had for the last 2 years had occurred, and this has just happened. We didn't get any today, but yesterday morning we had another double hit. We got hit twice, and so on. So I'm constantly tracking it. I now know for years now, I've been doing it for years. So I've got a memory of what's possible and where we're kind of going with it. And as a psychic medium, I also get messages and prophecy that's what I call it. I don't know what you want to call it, but and I'm just like, okay, I just, I'm open to it. I'm like, okay, like how is that going to shake out? Because sometimes it doesn't actually happen the way you think it will, for the most part. Sometimes it's a play on words or something cute, metaphorical. But they keep telling me 10x. They keep telling me we're going to get an X10 flare, which is pretty large and larger than we've seen in a very long time. The biggest one we had in 2003 was an X28. And that was like one of the biggest that we've had in kind of recorded time. And so I don't think we're going to get anything quite like that, because that was also, I think, bad data. It didn't it didn't show directly at the satellite. So they basically just had to guess from the ambience of it how strong it was, because it wasn't a direct hit at the camera. And so, yeah, I keep being told that we're getting an X10. And so that's going to wake people up like crazy. It's going to initiate a lot, because we had an X 2.28 the other day, and it was the biggest one in 2 years. So that's a huge difference of power. It's technically a new tier of X radiation that it's going to hit. I keep being told that that's coming. So I'm just kind of just telling people like, this is probably going to happen. A lot of people think the solar flash is happening. Like, the solar flash theory is that we're going to have a full coronal explosion of the sun, and it's going to basically reset our hologram. And it could only be a 10x that has to be that strong. And we will be like, we'll wake up that day and it'll look different. It'll feel different. And this has already happened. Like, people wake up the day we had that 2.28. I looked at the sky and the air, and I was like, this isn't it. I was like, what is this? This is not the color. This is not the frequency. Like, just looking at the sky, I was like, what is this? And then boom, like a few hours later, we got the report. So I was like, okay, thank you. So sky anomalies is a huge deal. People are seeing miracles in the sky. And now we're seeing artificial things in the sky too. Like, there's the fear and the light, like literal angels are showing up in the sky, dragons, gods, goddesses, like these beautiful things are manifesting. And then also it's like this fear factor is trying to meet it, because they kind of have to go one and the other, because we're bifurcating. It seems like there's two different personalities that are going, and I'm not sure how exactly that's going to keep going and how that's going to look. But you could a lot of people will die if we have a solar flare that large also, because a lot of death, that just happens. People die and people are born when the flares come in. So we got babies on Instagram that day, and rest in peace, uncle or whatever, even your dog, rest in peace, Scruffy. Like, the neural, if your brains especially aren't healthy, the neurons will just get overcharged and you'll just have a stroke, or you'll just cook and you'll leave. But it's like you're surfing the wave. The sun just pushed through the earth. You become a part of that. You just leave your body with it. And it's a part of the process. I think that's also how all of us were born. We just kind of shoot out of the sun and we show up, and then we die. We just shoot off and enjoy the energy ride. Like, that's what I've been seeing. And so it's tricky to discuss this, because a lot of people are not as, I want to say, spiritual about it. And obviously the mainstream sun watchers and earth watchers and earthquake watchers and volcano watchers, it's a very masculine field right now. There's a lot of masculine voices. People have been brainwashed into listening to men as their primary, or as the official source or official trusted source, as the patriarchy sort of, that's what was framed for. And to reject the feminine intuition is, I mean, it's just going to be extremely detrimental for someone if you do that. If you don't listen to your instincts, to even migrate is another big thing, because I keep seeing also that the ice cap is going to melt more than usual and overflow the rivers and stuff and cause problems, just because just slightly, things just got slightly more and they're just melted a little more. It doesn't even have to melt that much to overflow the rivers. And just to listen to the instinct within and in your heart to go somewhere, do something, even if it's totally random. Like, you'll get a phone call like, come visit your grandma, we bought your ticket. Instead of being like, oh, like, you want to, but then you're like, maybe I shouldn't. Like, if you have the instinct, like, yes first, and then your mind starts getting involved, listen to the yes first, because that is going to save your life. Literally, you could literally get moved out of danger immediately. And I have to encourage people to follow that first. If you're feeling that first yes or no, listen to the first yes or no in your body. This is the only time, like, this is the time when you have to listen, because the mind is going to try and talk you out of it, because the mind was the easiest thing to reprogram and control. And there's a whole battle basically for the souls of Earth and the souls of and the energy of Earth. So it's tricky. I'm basically experiencing the entire planetary shift and how it's going to be changing, or trying to harvest people and stuff. And even when the sun gives off these huge flares, people are visibly seeing plasma ships and like literal bodies of things exit the sun. I've been seeing it, and these are real. Like, there is real travel happening in and out of the sun, and they come here. That plasma does come here. Those ships do come here. They bring souls. They take souls. There's a whole operation going on. Some of us dream about it. Some of us are experiencing it in the astral plane a lot. But that's a big part of this too. So watching the solar weather is basically just watching the truth about what we're dealing with that day and what's coming next the best that we can, and just being grounded in that knowledge, because it's like nothing can overpower the sun. It's clearly the strongest electromagnetic force in our environment right now. And then there's the stars nearby, but they're not as powerful. The planets nearby, they're not as powerful. It is wise to watch the sun as your primary source of information. And I'm not sure how anyone doesn't do that.
I think you're just so tapped into it. It's, people are so, I think a lot of what I would, people would call spiritual people, they're so ahead that they forget how like glassy and normie and material and kind of NPC dead, most people are. They're like, they can't even, function. Like, it's almost like, because I feel like that a little bit too. And that's what I was kind of experiencing in December. But obviously we're like, you're
I've been
so
practicing a little longer.
Yeah. You're at this level that it's like you are like, how are people not obsessed with the sun and understanding this is going on? And everyone's like, oh, I gotta get this
it's
thing
basically the
typed up.
fall
It's
from
like,
grace. Like, to not pay attention to the sun is the devil winning, basically. Like,
yeah. I would say I have a lot of follow-up questions. First off,
thanks for holding space for me to deliver that.
Oh
how
my
I
God.
did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's I just want to basically stay grounded enough so I don't miss any thought. First off, the idea of, I want to get your opinion on a couple things about, because in one aspect, we'll tackle this first. Who do you think is operating this sort of, what would you describe their energy as, in the sense that the ships and the basically the whole operation that you're seeing? I want to get into that, because that has always been kind of this weird fever dream that I've subconsciously have felt since I was a very young child, and been like, no one's acting like this. Like, I'm just like a kid. I'm like, we're not acknowledging this at all. And then you push it away, like and then you push that idea away, and then you say, oh, it's just my imagination. Oh, I wasn't really remembering a past life when I was a kid. I was just, that's how it's, been phrased and then psychically enforced onto us. Yeah. And I would really love to get your insight on the sun. I'll, elaborate on it, but basically the operation that's going on a macro kind of, kind of very elaborately on a macro scale, on what kind of operation is actually occurring, unbeknownst to a normie.
Sure. I mean, what I'm aware of, and I've scanned through a lot of information just to get that hit where it's like, oh yeah, that, I'm going to take that, I'm going to take that. And I've just been taking notes out of all these things, because unfortunately, I haven't noticed anyone who's a pure channel of this information. And I think that's for a reason, so we don't worship them. And so they appear human to us, these people. But I've had to learn from a lot of people who have reached those higher levels of consciousness, and who have also fallen into, again, the matrix traps and all of that, because they didn't get raptured that second. And so their frequency went back down, and all of their humanness and stuff and karma they had to clear still came up for them. And we're all here to clear the most density we can and separation from source that we can. But my understanding is what's going on is it's a physics thing. This is a physical experience from our galactic I want to say temperament, and they call it it's the galactic sheet, or it's kind of like a plasma ring that's around our galaxy, and our edge of the Milky Way is kind of rotating into a more charged space, or it's actually rotating closer almost to the galactic center, which means in like every square inch of our air, there's more photons. Basically, there's more in that realm than when we were born. Even like that square inch is getting filled with more and more photons. Therefore, we are, as we mutate along with it, and our environment is, and we are in that rise now because it comes up and down. It's like a undulating cycle, and there is people, obviously there is this has been recorded, and there's some people who know what cycle we're in, but there's also lies. There's tons of lies telling us we're in this cycle when we're in this cycle. And I've just been staring at people being like, oh, that's not it, but we're close. Like, I'm going to take this, but I'm going to do this. Why I have the audacity to do so, I'm not sure. But this cycle, I think it is caused by just genuine rotation of our galaxy and how we rotate. And so our sun is just plowing through more of the galactic light and matter and so on. And it's causing our sun to flash more and react more because it's like coming up against more energy as it flies. Mm-hmm. And we're being dragged behind it. And the atmospheres and the conditions of all the planets in our solar system are changing. There is evidence of that from some of these researchers I've seen, which is cool. But in a way, it is more of just like, if you want to just go fully mental with it, there is evidence of that physics occurring, where there is just more light in the square footage, more frequency in the each square inch in our reality. And this mutation that we must do to continue matching our environment is what is being fought against so hard with the chemicals and the like efforts to slow down and clog up our atmosphere and our planet and so on. And try and pull out or protect from the light that is coming in through this galactic plasma in a way. That's how I understand it. And this path is, we're on the uprise, like that we're beginning. We've definitely noticed that we are definitely evolving. There is an upward trend, not a downward trend in a way. I would say with our intelligence is a key, and it's the consciousness, like all of this stuff, this light, it's just consciousness. It's just more concentration of consciousness per square inch in a way. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you have more access to the awareness of the reality you're in. We're becoming more aware. Even people who are asleep are becoming more aware about what's going on in their environment. Despite their efforts to ignore it, it cannot be ignored. It is happening. So that's evidence too. And when I first heard about this, I was like, well, I started my blog, was like, it's either going to go up or down. Like, we're either going to have more consciousness show up or less in the community. And then I'll know if this physics of our solar system is true. And there is more light and more consciousness coming for us to access, basically. And it does seem like that's exactly what's going down. And this more of us, it's just more source energy available to us to utilize, to be gods and goddesses of like the actual physical form of this energy we can physically act upon and do. And in this density, it's amazing. And people who take psychedelics experience that even more so, even though it's a temporary time. You know, when you focus on your focal point, you can literally move things and you can shift it and you can expand it and bloom it. And some people can physically manifest things in their presence. Like, some people have been able to do that. Some people have been able to completely bilocate themselves and show up and walk around. I've been able to do that multiple times. You don't physically leave. It's weird. Like, you're still here, but it's such an incoherent state where you're just like you're barely present. And then you get texts and phone calls from people being like, I just saw you. You know what I mean? Like, were you walking around at that event? Like, I met you there. And I'm like, nope, I was not physically there, but I was. And it's like, you have to start believing that these things are possible, because people tell you it's happening. People tell me I visit them in their dreams and bring them through all of these types of experiences all the time. And I'm deeply attaching and going inward to get your astral experience and your dreams worked out is what I'm doing right now. It feels like it's time. So I'm taking teas and stuff that will stimulate and replenish my body. So when I'm dreaming, I have even more access to the astral plane. But that's sort of the realm, the imagination realm or the dream realm. That's what's merging. We're going to be living in the dream more so. Our waking lucid dream is going to be more like when we're sleeping, how we're capable. It's those two realms are merging together, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And so that has been one of the more amazing things is also, and miraculous healings, and just the reality, the hologram before you is able to be way more manipulated by the consciousness because it's all consciously being projected out. So it's like once you kind of get on top of that awareness, you realize you're creating it so you can change it. And have dreams. What do you want to change this reality to look like? Because it's coming through you and your permission. So what do you want from this reality next? Put your voice out there, literally manifest it with the sound waves out of your mouth. That is our actual, like the word of God. Like it's literally coding the frequencies of what's going to happen next. So take responsibility, take that and be like, what am I making? What is it that I want to see? And speak it. And if you're speaking ill, which I've still been doing, it's still squeaking out of me, mean things, terrible things, anger, but it's like you got to let it out so you can see where it came from, what it is. And then next time it comes out, you'll be like, oh, I just want to, and then correct it. You can also then correct it right after, like, blah, 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 and then you're like, but blah, 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 and like do good things like three more times just to like cancel and then up it. And eventually you will get on top of that darkness and you'll figure out what's festering in you, what is neglected in you still, like, what did you do? What do you need? Eventually you'll get it. And that is sort of our internal responsibility. We're literally being purged of the darkness and the shadows that cannot live in that density of light, that the square footage of light and consciousness, it's like all that unconscious stuff is literally, there's nowhere for it to go anymore. So it's all squirting out of us in all these different ways, and some much worse than others, thankfully. So definitely you'll be able to pick your friends real easy this year because you'll know who can handle themselves or not. And this is the end game. Like this is a big one. This year is a big one. And I'm fascinated to see how this year is going to shake out because of what I'm seeing so far. And like you said, it's speeding up. Like time is just like, it's going so fast, but it's also so slow. Like I want some certain progress, but I have to physically wait so much longer than I want to for some things because I've already seen it. I already feel it. I already know it. I already understand it. But to not have it in my reality is so weird. And it's like, why is there space between me and this thing I already feel is true? It's like, I think that's just the progress we're going to have to see. But soon it's going to be like instant, like what's happening? Like it's on, it's there, it's good. And you're going to be happy with what you manifested because you didn't do some sort of mean thing and, say something awful and then it actually happens. Like you wouldn't want that. We kind of say awful things because we know it's not going to happen and it's kind of a vent. But if it did happen, you would be way more careful what you say, but it's about to be like that is happening. Like we are at that point where everything we're doing is manifesting almost instantly, and that is why we're going through this rapid awakening, this rapid spiritual self. Take your responsibility for yourself, take responsibility for your healing, stop giving your power away to all these systems and control systems, pull it all back, rein all your energy back, quarantine in your house, like scoop all that stuff and energy back and just like slough off what's no longer can feed off you and let it die. Because there's the die off that has to happen. A lot of people are doing parasite cleanses and watching physical things die and finally leave their vessel that they never thought was even there or cared about. But now they know it's in there. They got to kill it off and and it's like a proper death. You're being given permission to kill off things in your system, which is kind of strange. You wouldn't think that you want to pursue killing things, but there is a constructive way to do that. And that energy you have can be redirected to a parasite cleanse, for example, and killing off whatever's in your gut and letting it die. and other beings and other humans and everybody. Like death is gonna be a part of it. It's a big part of it. And those of us born with Pluto Scorpio, the generation, I don't know if you and me have that. We might be, I think you might be in that same category, but we were basically built to be the angels of death, like the bringers of the death, and aware of what good it is. We want to kill off what is the siphoning, non-cooperative energy, because it can't live here anymore. And they say that this time we're going into, because of how much light is in our environment, is called the golden age, basically, or the 1,000 years of peace. That's one of the prophecy. So we could be moving into this 1,000 years of peace, and we're just in like year 5 or something of it, and we're just watching the die off while the peace is rising. And the die off in the first 10-20 years of whatever this 1,000 years, we won't remember it after that, because it'll be so wonderful. You'll be like, well, I know why that had to happen, and back to the earth, back to prima matra, back to the fertilizer, and regrowing the better, and regrowing it for more useful communal energies and stuff. And so that's what I'm watching. And it's hard because when I watch the inoculation sort of round go out, and like the extreme level of coherent, or I want to say obedience, that occurred, and what they could be used for was basically like, are we going to literally see every one of these beings who it was like their ticket out, like, here is my mental permission slip for my destruction. And it was like, because I am not, their soul, their body, everything wasn't ready, wasn't willing to go to this 1,000 years of goodies. And you and me literally could live that entire 1,000 years, is also another thing. Like, we may not leave, like, this might be our body for 1,000 years, you and me. So
Yeah.
very possible that that's also going to happen. So it's like our mental coherence and our like mental distortions that we were raised in can't even comprehend or believe exactly what's going on too. So that's why I think it's happening so slow, and why that inoculation thing happened, because it was like a logical permission slip also for this die off that'll happen of people. But it's not a bad thing. It's like a permission slip, because they weren't ready for this round. They had already fallen maybe years ago. They'd already sold their soul years ago, and have just been operating barely in the vessel and causing problems, driving cars, not being constructive or helpful,
Yeah. No, I know.
They're just the drones, and their soul had already been taken. Their soul, then their soul wasn't strong enough, and their soul got taken. They're taken over and overpowered, dominated, and that just happened. And unfortunately, some people, you're like, but I thought you were gonna make it. Like, I thought you were strong enough. And it's like, that's not up to us, because they chose, and some of them chose, and they're trying to now detox themselves because they are strong enough. And that's amazing. Like, good for you. Like, adversity, this is your wake-up call. Like, ooh, I bowed, I took the knee, and I shouldn't have. But some people were like, I took the knee, and then like there was no other thoughts after that. It was over. Like, they took the knee and that was it, and they're gone. You won't see them, and you won't see them like they were ever again. And they could literally just be, again, walking, talking, and they will have a normal life cycle. Like, they will live to 50, 60, 70 years old and die in a logical way. What we understand is logical for human lifespan, but we're going to be 1,000 years old. So we're just going to not age and look at them, and they're just going to decline like they usually do. To them and all of us, it'll seem a little more normal. I think that might be more, but I also have seen images and have gotten things that people are going to be dying. Like, we're going to be losing a lot of people. And I don't know if that's real or not. I could be also distorted and fearful. Like, I don't claim to know everything. I'm trying to balance it and be kind. And I don't think there's anything wrong with ditching a vessel and leaving, as long as you aren't being like sucked into some sort of like control structure to like power a robot, like, which is possible also. And yeah, it's like a harvest. They call it the harvest. as well. And some people are being harvested for their energy all their lives, and they work for their job and they think that they're doing fine, but they're literally just feeding a machine, and the machine is poisoning everybody so that no more healthy children can be born and all that. And that's been a problem. But there's still people having kids right now who are never treated. Their kids are never treated. These babies are going to be incredible. Like, who knows what they're going to be capable of. I was treated and I was hit as a child.
Mhm.
And I know I have brain damage because of it. And
Yeah.
I have been repairing it all my life. But I have my handicaps, but not enough where I've been able to push through and figure it out and keep swimming to the surface, like
Mhm.
seeing the light and pursuing it. And I needed to lean on people also in our community. Lots of times I do it every freaking day because I'm struggling every day with also the die off of old things that don't serve me, old behaviors that don't serve me, things that were protecting me but weren't. Like, they were just withholding me from my truth. And it's just not acceptable anymore. It's not being allowed. And also me not being honest or even as vocal as I have about my opinions on things. I have to be more vocal and honest, and I have to continue growing up and stepping in and being a protector, because some people are just not seeing it. But they're 10-20 years older than me, and they've been through way more of that, like, fall from grace in the society. Like, they had different inoculations as kids, like they had different programming, different stuff in the air. A lot of things have been discontinued and blocked since the 90s. The 90s were kind of like that every time I tap in, it was like the 90s were crazy, is what I hear. The 90s were the craziest time. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I think that was
Yeah.
like the time when it started. It
Mhm.
was like, that was it. And the
Yeah.
kids who were born then were the ones who were gonna take it on, like, big time. The 90s were like, it was the make or break time for our souls as a planet, I think. And we won, at least on this timeline, and we're here, we're still
Mhm.
going for it. So I'm just excited to see what else I channel through and see. And also being a death doula, or like helping people understand how to let their people die in respectful ways for their soul to leave their body undisturbed. Because if you disturb a body 3 days after they die, within that time, you can torture their soul, basically, because their cells are still alive. The cell death takes a couple days, and so they're still attached to the body. So if you do anything to the body after 3 days of the first initial death, you could be torturing that person's soul. So I have to also tell people, like, don't do that. Let your person go, like, put them in a bedroom, put them in the dark, like, just light a few candles. And when they're dying, let them go into the sleep. Let them just sleep out of their body gently, and then let the body rest for 3 days, and then gently put it somewhere, and allow it to be reabsorbed into the earth, the matter, the dead, the minerals and the goodies that are still left, let it be replenished, and let the soul give it that respect. And I think, yeah, teaching people how to deal with the dead is a big one. I know there's all these people who are birthing people and are excited about the babies coming in. That's their job. But for me, I feel like I have to tell people how to deal with the death more, so is more my goal. And as a psychic medium, so then when they're off, I still get information from them. I can still talk. That veil is going to be the people who are all going to die.
Wait, one
A lot
second.
of
Sorry.
people.
The mic, it's kind of getting some glitching coming in. 1 second. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yep.
Okay. It was
I
breaking out
know.
right there. Yeah. It was breaking out right there.
Sorry.
You're messing with the quantum mechanics
We've
of
done pretty good
space-time.
though.
Doing good. I know. I was worried. I
We've
was like,
done
are there
good. I
gonna get
know.
any
I'm channeling a lot.
lights? Are the lights gonna
Uh,
dim once we start talking about certain things?
yeah, exactly. So,
Um,
and that energy that they've been siphoning and not sure what to do with, that soul force, that's going to be brought into a way more coherent state when it's not trapped in these tormented bodies where it can't, the flow, like the chi can't flow to where it needs to go. And they've been trapped in their own body for years. And to be free of that, and to also then be able to continue contacting and working with their family from beyond their body, that's a privilege we're going to be experiencing, and more. And it's not going to feel like we've lost anybody. It's going to be more constructive. Then you'll know, oh, you know, eventually you'll have another child. So this ancestor can come in and do that again. And you'll know who it's going to be. You'll know what the plan is. It'll be more coherent.
Hmm.
And I feel that very strongly. So like people are afraid because of what conditions we've lived through, but they're not going to be the same
Hmm.
rules. It's like, it's going to be easier. And I'm excited. Like, I just want people to surrender to it in a way, surrender to this process, figure out the actual organic process of how the solar system cycle works and how the spirit moves in and out of our bodies and how to contact it in a healthy way. And also who isn't good to talk to and what spirits are literally clinging for life because they've lost their way, and transitioning people and asking them to go to the light when you meet a ghost or a spirit that doesn't seem to know what it's doing. Just be like, it's okay, you are loved, you are loved, you are welcomed into the light. Go to the light, go to your family, go to your ancestors. They are waiting, they're holding you. Look, they're there they are. I push, like, you know, I transition you to the light. We will always be together. Like, I want to work with you from that position and from your power. So go to your power, go to the light. And I think that's another thing and task that we're going to be doing as the 90s kids or whatever, like
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
just being like,
yeah.
you got this, guys, like, woo, like go on to the light, like we've got this. The next plan is we're going to be making the cities of light, and we're going to be making way more opportunity for this world to thrive again and
Hmm.
kick off the chains and stuff
Hmm.
that no longer serve us or interest us anymore, I should say. I guess it's like, it was interesting as a conflict for this for source, and now it's like it's not interesting and we want to do a new experience. So I think we're just, yeah, we're transitioning experiences right now, and it's super fun. And what do you want to do with your energy? Like, what do you feel coming through you that you want to build or create in this density, like for your future, for the next 7 generations?
Hmm. Personally,
Yeah, I'm curious.
yeah, personally, I feel that a few things. I think fundamentally, this is kind of partly the beginning of the conversation. We're always kind of alluding to this, that there is this flow and this natural order that we've kind of stopped in how we've constructed cities, how
Mhm.
we've poisoned things, the removing this toxicity out of our lives and identifying that this is objective in a sense. And really, and this has been coming through to me when you're thinking about what I need to say, and that really resonated too, where we need to actually amplify our voices, even though we're young in comparison to, someone who's 70 and a sage, you
Sure.
know, we do need to amplify our voices in a sense, and not being inhibited by this feeling of, oh, I don't know everything. Make sure I say everything right, So that's part of something that I want to integrate just in myself, and understanding that this bifurcation, like you said, totally does need to happen, and accept basically this really the sense of ease and the sense of peace that I think we can create in all aspects of our life. In something that's just coming up with me now is architecture, is having architecture being more conducive to fit sacred geometry and chi, in
Mhm.
like a Tesla Taoist way, where there's feng shui and things are flowing without this kind of heavy stagnation where chi can build up and be all kind of thick.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot of why I don't like traffic in cities, is that if like that's the secret thing, is that it's just this buildup of either thought clusters of anger, or you're just adding this just how the energy is flowing is so non-conducive to like literally paving a road. It's funny too when you said cars. I feel so a little gaslit for having that opinion too, but I totally agree with you that cars and roads just seem like so I was so horrified, like as a child, like these are our adults and this is what we're doing, and then there's just tons of roadkill everywhere. I'm like, how does this make any sense? Like, how is there just this ran over coyote on the road, no one cares, and it's
Yes.
like, and to deny that that doesn't like psychically upset you is something too, like that should upset you, and that there's this disillusion that, oh yeah, I'm just, I'm so fixated on my one goal that I can't feel these outside things, that there should be this flow that needs to occur.
Yeah.
And they're finally acknowledging that too, and like in California, they're finally acknowledging like, hey, there's only a couple mountain lions left. They can't really cross this freeway, you know, like, and it's ridiculous, to say the least. So I think creating a society that's actually conducive to this sense of sacred geometry and flow, where we're not creating this stagnant energy that's just going to, you know, it's just going to cause too much inconduciveness to how nature functions and works. I think that's something that I really want to be a part of, and you know, exploring Taoism to its, not to its zenith in a sense, because it's funny when you're saying when we're upgrading, because that's something, you know, Buddhists and Taoists do, is they just basically kind of meditate, and some of them become basically so advanced that they just basically decide to leave their bodies, and then they just
Yes.
leave, you know, then they just go, you know, they basically do a full astral travel and just go, you know, just go up to the heavenly realms and just kind of dip out of their body.
Yes.
So I don't want to get to there, you know, I want to stay here for a little bit. You know,
But
why
you know how to do it.
yeah, I'm not, yeah, so there's that kind of aspect of definitely, and I definitely ignore understanding what I need to do and what kind of this like has been, what's been given to me in terms of my own cognitive powers, of because I have really good hearing. When you say you see it in people
Mhm.
earlier, you're saying, oh, I see this kind of that sunkenness in their soul. I can hear it, and it's been something very
Very good.
off
That's
to
cool.
off to kind of, because it's weird because most people have, you know, different sensory things, but my thing has always been hearing, and always been super attuned to kind of like when people's thoughts kind of can bleed
Yes.
out, and I can just hear them. I'm like, you're not
Yep.
like, to me it's almost terrifying because my inner thoughts and talking are almost indistinguishable from each other, like how I almost perceive your thoughts and how like reality functions, like from a like when I'm meditating in a spiritual space, like I just, that's like one of my aspects, is that like I can just hear the thoughts like very well, or hear the vibration of things very well, like how something even like sounds, um or like to me I can hear if like an animal was in a lot of pain and I don't want to eat it, I can hear the kind of like the buzzing, it like it'll buzz in a certain way, just on a very, you know, disclosing a lot of my personal powers. It's like I can hear things kind of like when they're happy or when they're sad, like when grass is happy, when grass is sad, when, you know, when like when trees are sad too. It's, that one's very painful, because if you're in a city and there's so much pollution and they're breathing in all that pollution, I can hear them. It's almost like it's just too jarring. So I think having a functional kind of cohesive system to where people's powers in a sense can be amplified to, you know, do good, and kind of have that very clear bifurcation of society, where we're having this kind of more integrated society, is something that I really want to fully immerse myself into. In like, if I could have any sort of legacy, it's basically giving sort of a platform for obviously new thoughts in this, you know, in this modern sense, why we still have internet
Yeah.
for now, you know, and however long that's going to occur, whatever. But
Yeah,
you
that'll
know,
be
like,
amazing.
yeah, I don't know if this internet's going to be on forever, but you know, and then eventually, you know, adapting myself and really getting rid of this kind of like, you know, where I want to. And it was interesting you brought up that one good point too, of like these, there are generations, kind of this this has a very distinct generation, where I think that's part of my intuitive knowing sense, that I want to have a very clear, distinct, and fierce kind of way to say, no, this is not good and we should keep doing this. So I kind of disillusion that sense of forwardness with sometimes my own thoughts of wanting to win, in a sense, obviously. So that's why I can be like, oh, I want to battle you. Yeah, like, you know, because you're bad, let's battle. So I was like, oh,
Right.
that resonated a lot with me when I was like, but just advancing more in my own, you know, practice, and then basically helping conducive that to a wider audience, in a sense, that kind of, you know, even just this conversation up, you know, quantumly shifts the conversation, you know, and even the, like you said, the manifestation of creating the decision to be more uninhibited and
Yeah.
to actually amplify this generation's voice while we still have internet is going to be something very powerful for this kind of space and for this community. So when we bifurcate and keep advancing up, it's going to keep amplifying.